Okay, thank you for joining today. And actually, what I wanted to kick off our discussion with the term strong board. It was mentioned several times by OECD. We can read it in guidelines, revised guidelines. But when it comes to your experience, what would be the main aspects what you would put in this term strong boards? We need development, we need proper oversight, we need to ensure also that the boards are kind of buffer when politicians are changing and trying to influence also decisions that are not on a board desk, but some operational. So challenges are all over the floor. If you would need to put some main perspectives on that two words, what it would mean to you. Elīna, do you want to start?
Thanks. So first of all, I think that the key focus is challenger. So strong board should be the challenger for the management board. And the challenger in a very positive and professional way. This is not about criticism, but this is about the challenging, the management board. So, and another key word is independent professional. For sure, there should come aspects like climate resilient in a metaphor, so that whatever happens in the environment outside, you should not stress on this. But challenger and professional challenger is a key aspect in my mindset and from my experience.
Okay, Jūratė, you want to put your experience on those that are mentioned already?
Yes, and probably I would like to emphasize importance of independence, independence of thinking, independence of opinion, providing really critical thinking and opinion that would be really contributing towards the enterprise future and sustainability. And at the same time, finding the balance and dialogue with the shareholder. I think it's important that strong board would also have that balancing perspective. So this is not easy and always tricky, and it depends, on the political cycles. But I think you mentioned very good word buffering. So being independent and providing kind of shield or buffer between sometimes some political, let's say, agendas and still provide enterprise value. So I would add this one, and also adding on professional part. Indeed, it's not enough just to complete some courses of BICGs. It's amazing, but generally having some wisdom again to make decisions. So right competences, right structure of the board, and wisdom and critical thinking. So there are many, many things, and I believe colleagues will add much more.
Okay. So now we have a definition regarding strong boards, and I want to ask the next question to Erkki and Klāvs regarding this mix of competence and skills. So you need to incorporate all those in a boardroom just to ensure that really the strong board performs as a strong board. So what do you think, how to structure such a boards, where to find or how to define those competences, because it's shareholder competence, right, to define the profiles, to search for board members, and then suddenly you are meeting your new friends in a first board meeting. Hello, we will work together for next 4 years. So how you are, what's your experience regarding this mix of competence, coming back to the definition what we have, what is actually the strong board? Erkki, do you want to start?
Yeah, thank you. Not to be too abstract about it, is that board is also the team, but as you rightfully walked us in, not a typical team, because board inside also needs to challenge itself. But still, I would say is that the kind of same 4 components, whenever you hire, I think to keep in mind also relevant to the board. So it's not only the professionalism, of course, there are more, but also then the character of these people. So I would say is starting off that smart, honest, hardworking, and able to work in a team. So on top of all of the kind of otherwise competencies is that all this mixture to start to work is that. So I'm very much on the kind of personal trait sides now here. Is that I think that also needs to be there, because this group needs to work together.
And if this is not the case?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say that then you keep looking, but I increasingly think, and maybe because I hold the hammer and then I see the nails, but I increasingly think is that we maybe slightly undermine the role of the chairman in the picture. When we look also into the principles, we don't say a single word about the chairman. And maybe there is a reason for that. But I mean, it is with every team is that who is, I mean, you can have the best players around there, is that, but who's going to be the coach, who's going to be a facilitate. And that does not mean is that a big father figure, you know, there, but it's a real skill is that I think you can have the best board members in the world, but still basically failing to work together unless they are also well orchestrated. So I have encountered now, particularly recently, that it makes a huge difference how the board is led. Yes, and that's a slightly different thing, I think, than to lead any other team because of the personalities what you have there.
Okay. So Klāvs, 2 boards where you are a chair, facilitator, something more, right? Regarding mix of competence, coming back to the strong board definition, your points?
I mean, the strong boards probably starts from the nomination, especially in state-owned companies. And of course, in Latvia, we have this system that the nomination is usually divided between different ministries. And of course, the experience and the knowledge, I mean, of selecting is probably unique at the ministry. Of course, we create this kind of nomination committees with usually maybe some independent member participating, also from BCAG. But I would say that, I mean, we maybe pay not enough attention, I mean, how this group are created, and I mean, because going through the checklist of all the kind of criteria of education, experience, and so on, I mean, that's, I mean, I assume pretty common, but I mean, when these people sit together and are evaluating the applicants and the possible team, I mean, there need to be kind of very experienced stakeholders at the table, so who can really kind of choose the right people and the right team in the first hand. Of course, usually it happens that, I mean, the board is dissolved, like all the board is dissolved and there is no this like experience sharing from when you joined the board with some previous board members. And that's, of course, is a plus from one side. I mean, you can create and start everything as a kind of from the blank page, but I mean, that also sometimes kind of limits maybe some unique knowledge which follows when you come to that organization. But I fully agree that the role of the chairman is very important, facilitating and understanding the business itself and the people, because I mean, dealing in state-owned companies, this is a little bit of specific because of the stakeholder management.
Okay. Stakeholders. There is an elephant in the room, at least in Latvia currently, in political discussions. So if improving governance, what we heard also in country experiences. So every year there are some improvements, and if you are looking back 10 years, so it's significant improvement in governance in all Baltic countries. Do you agree? Yes. So those who are online, yeah. So the audience agreed, almost 100%. And there are some waves. When all political agendas there are discussions, how to improve and what to do, and currently, at least in Latvia, and this is not a case in Lithuania and Estonia, is regarding the size of the boards. And it's a movement that we need to cut a board member size. So what to do, not to do with that. So what we did at BSAG, so we took 5 largest state-owned companies and 5 largest municipality-owned companies in Baltics. And what we saw is that actually the minimum number of board members, that is 3 We can see a lot in Latvian state-owned companies, less in Lithuania and in Estonia. In average, it's around 4.5 in Latvia and Lithuania. In Estonia, it's more. So Jan mentioned that in 2 board members, you cannot put all the competences needed. What about the teamwork? What about resilience? What about if it's crisis and so on? So reflection regarding the size and board size relation to the responsibilities that are growing and expectations are growing. We are talking about sustainability and resilience in an OECD, what was not there. But it's expectations that board will manage and ask sustainability-related risks and to advise management also how to see opportunities. How can you do it with 2-3 board members? Maybe some reflections, and let's start with, you want to start? Yeah,
yeah I want to start. I guess we need to answer, first of all, I mean, why there is a state-owned enterprise. I mean, and there is a different industries which is kind of working in a free market environment where you have a first competition from the private sector. Of course, these companies probably, first of all, we need to answer, I mean, why we have these companies as a state-owned enterprises. And of course, I would advocate that these are probably the industries where the state needs to kind of to privatize these companies as soon as possible and put in the free market, because I mean, state's role is not kind of to compete with the private sector, with the private business, and but taking the circumstances that these companies are still owned by the company, I mean, there should be quite diverse boards with experience in risk management, in strategy, finance, and so on, because I mean, the role itself, I mean, you are dealing with kind of various aspects of the business and company life, and there, I would say that good number would be like at least 5 to 7 board members. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the companies operating as a kind of state functions, like I don't know, water company and I mean, whatever, the electricity or some utilities, I would say that 3 to 4 would be enough, because I mean the business itself is much kind of differently constructed in a way, yeah? And you have different goals to manage and check in that case. So I would say I would start, I mean, asking the question, I mean, why the state is owning this business in the first hand, then trying kind of formulate that one and put the goal that this is not the state were competing with the private sector in the first hand. But if that's the case, then we have this quite diverse, because I mean, usually this is quite a first competition, and you need a quite big skill set in the board to help to grow that business.
Okay, where are you guiding that actually the good advice would be to segment state-owned companies, basically those who are commercial, those who are budget financed, what is fulfilling some social or other policy objectives, and where this competitive environment is, then it's 5-7, what is average OECD practice when we are looking to all jurisdictions, and also recommendation also in Baltics. But where the funding from the state is and where those policy objectives prevails, it's 3-4. Agree? Disagree?
I have a little bit different opinion, because I believe that the number of board members, first of all, should be defined by the size, scope of the company and the industry. So we cannot, like, one size fits all. But generally, if we have, for example, water supply company, but if that company, the turnover is like 200 million, I would doubt the 3 members would be capable enough to manage this size and scope of the organization. You also mentioned in the beginning of the question about the increasing scope of the regulation and all the changes, including technology and so on. So I believe that because of that, probably would not be very efficient to enlarge the size of the board members, because we will have challenges to come up with some really well defined and discussed opinion to come up to arrive to same agreement if we, let's say, have 9 board members. I know that in some Benelux countries they do have large boards, and at the same time probably they have some challenges to come up with the real efficient board work. So my opinion is that a board can always hire external advisors to advise on AI, on any other question. So in that case we will have efficiency, limiting the scope of the board members, and at the same time we will have some required knowledge from the market.
All right. So Erkki, you told yes.
Yeah, fully agree.
Okay, nothing. Okay.
I would like to another aspect to this. So the complexity of operations is one angle. Another one is if you are in the capital markets, either with the bonds issues or with IPOs, you have to consider investors' interests as well. And this brings in completely different level of governance for the company. I'm not talking on reporting. I mean the way how the mindset of the company is made and how the processes are run. So, and this next level or this extra mile, it definitely requires different professional level of the board. So this might be one of the triggers to add extra competence in the board team.
Okay. Coming back to this sustainability area, what also EBRD emphasized from the expectation point of view, and just to see opportunities. So the current setup of the board and composition, and suddenly you need somebody with the background or understanding that board can challenge also the sustainability. That is relatively new item in board roles and responsibility list under the OECD. So what to do with that? So are we trying to redraw the board metrics, seeing that if somebody is covering that, not covering that, go to shareholder and saying, hi, sustainability is important. All stakeholders are expecting. We need somebody in boardrooms that is covering this part as well. Are we looking for, at managerial level, some strong persons, and so on and so on. So what to do in this regard?
Yeah, I absolutely wouldn't hire a special person for that, because I think that that's exactly the way of compartmentalizing the topic, is that, okay, there comes John and then he or she is doing sustainability for us. I don't think that's the broad goal here. I don't think that there is any alternative for us, is that both the company as well as the board to really grow into these topics, is that it's not, it's not a narrow finance or something specific. I think sustainability is a broad topic. So yeah, I mean, not everybody is going to be the deep expert on that, but it's today also is, I mean, you can't run the company and say is that that only the IT director knows about IT, everybody else is clueless about the technology. It just doesn't work. And not that anybody said that, but I think that sustainability is very much the same topic. I mean, it needs to be broad-based, and so is that I'm not sure how much we need to accelerate that, but I mean, the world does not allow to go without it, so is that I'm pretty sure we're going to grow it throughout the management board as well as throughout the supervisory boards.
Okay.
Yeah, just to add, I mean, to Erkki, basically the industry itself kind of regulates most of the things, and basically, and that's normally cover a lot of operational aspects. For example, in aviation, I mean, the overall goal by 2050 is kind of carbon neutral or whatever operations. That means, I mean, that includes the change of the fleet. That means a change of the fuel the airlines are using, and many other aspects of the sustainability aspect. So I mean, there might be the person who is good with reporting of that when it comes to the, I don't know, annual reports, and but I mean that should be the job for everyone in the company. I mean, at least in the management board and different levels below that. Yeah.
Okay.
So if we talk on sustainability, so this is much broader one. Actually, I'm talking about the business continuity model, because there are so many changes, either external changes, and the environment is changing. Either it comes from legislation requirements, which is really very specific one to your industry, or either it is coming from investors and the financiers, rational thinking and your risk assessment, or either it comes from value chains and your customers. I mean, all that one comes together under ESG and sustainability. And third one, and here if we are, as it was in your presentation, there are so many SOEs who are operating in CO2 intense sectors. So this means that in the eyes of financiers and investors, you are having extremely high transitional risk. I mean, what means transitional risk? It means that the need of investments and time in order to adapt to low carbon economy is much, I mean, you need to have extra funding and extra time, which we do not have. So therefore, in the eyes of investors, you are having a higher transition risk. We already see in our Baltic capital markets that there are issuers, state-owned enterprises, who are issuing bonds, and the use of proceeds are going to be for transition finance, for shifting of operations from those segments which are not going to be operated as of 2030. I mean, this is already happening here in the Baltics. So therefore, sustainability goes together with the strategy and the development of the business. So this is not about sustainable KPIs reporting. And gender diversity. This is about complex business operation shift if and when needed.
Okay. But would you say that sustainability is embedded in your company strategies and business models?
Yeah.
There as well? Some was no, yes. Okay, yes, most likely, yes. Okay.
It's an attitude, I would say. It's a focus. And I believe that many, or maybe majority, already have embedded sustainability focus targets and some governance measures. So just adding on what colleagues said, I think that, first of all, board members should be always curious, open to learning, so learning board. We can add to what is strong board, so one more definition. But generally, if just would be one board member who would be kind of responsible for sustainability, it means that only one person is responsible. But it's overall board's responsibility or governance responsibility to really run sustainable business in the long term.
And actually, I wanted the next question to address to you, so you will have opportunity to continue. Yes, because the governance will change in Lithuania soon. So it means that there can be questions how it will be translated to the boards. And first thing, what you told regarding strong board is independent professional. So, and if you are analyzing and deep diving in this independence of SOE boards and to take decisions in the best interest of the company and all shareholders, and as we are aware that there are some political interests, and sometimes it's in benefit of reaching some political ambitions that are discussed in the boardrooms, and not necessarily those interests match with the best interest of the company. So how would you put what mechanisms are in place actually to safeguard that boards of SOEs, where are independent board members, can take independent decisions and independent judgment with all this independent mindset taking into account what you mentioned?
I think you're asking me for a reason. Yeah, so indeed, so political cycles, it's something that probably mostly can affect the board work. So starting from the guardrails. So I think that Lithuania has made really good progress in terms of having some already embedded legislation and processes that are, for example, there is a definition that not less than half board members should be independent. So if we have like 5 members in the board, so 3 of them should be independent. So I think this is already what is working in Lithuania. Then we can move into selection and nomination process. So again, there are some processes that external, like in Finland, for example, so external companies, they are headhunting for the candidates, and there is a committee that is nominating. So generally, the process is already there. I think it works quite well. But it's the same like, we have, for example, some rules how to drive on the street, right? That you should not overspeed, you should, park in specific place. But sometimes it happens that people do not obey those regulations, and putting more regulations probably will not help with the situation. So I would say that that soft part that you could not put into regulation and those real safeguards, it's about the maturity of society, maturity of democracy. And it means that, there always can be some conversations, let's say, in the boardroom or next to the boardroom. But I think it's important that we as society, first of all, understand what is democracy, what is values, what is integrity. So this is one thing. And then there is a question how much you are independent really as a board member. Are you independent and strong enough to have those conversations if there is some, let's say, attempt to influence you as an independent board member? So I think it's always, first of all, huge responsibility on each independent board member to be themselves as the safeguards of independence.
And do you have criteria for yourself as an independent board member, which is a limit? So red lamps are beeping all around, and one moment you're saying, no, this is too much.
Okay, so I can share my experience.
No. Yeah.
I can share my experience. So some time ago, I used to be, it was in 2019, I was the member of Lithuanian Post board. And there was a political cycle change. It was after the change, it was a conversation with the new representatives of the shareholder, with the board. And we were asked for some changes in the company management. And the independent board members, we didn't see any reason, any logic behind. And we, as the independent board members, we refused to execute this ask, I would say, and the board was dismissed. So I'm an example that, you should stand the ground professionally, and, times are changing. I'm here as the chair of the Lithuanian Post board. So probably this is the way how we should protect independence.
All right. Erkki, you want to...
I'm just happened to be in a position of being really thoroughly selected independent in Enefit Green. And thank you or not thank you to the EBRD who has been putting high demands up prior to the IPO. So there are 5 board members, and because Enefit Green is still associated to Estonian Energy, so there are 3 people coming from to the board of Enefit Green coming from the Eesti Energia, and 2 independents. And these 2 independents, I mean, the requirements are quite clear and thorough. So, and I didn't maybe realize or didn't think about it too much, early in the process, but then seeing and actually going, step by step also of these EBRD, I would say heavy but helpful requirements, much more clarified also to myself is that, what this role is really expected to be. And it's a lot. And point what I want to make is that, is that when we do choose the independent board members, it's helpful also to be really, really specific what this particular role also entails. So it's not that, that, okay, we just do that from the matrix that, not conflicted anyway and so independent, off we go, but rather is that, okay, you have been selected now or proposed to become as an independent board member, this and this what we actually expect from you, to pay particular attention that, transactions are conducted in arm's length base, etc. And then I think it's really effective. And I'm not saying that it's not being done, but I think that the kind of, it's a role of itself, and I think it also should be taken like that. I think also the case what was described by you is that one day maybe we will be in the position is that when the board of the independent members also is being dismissed, is that at least that there is some kind of communication coming out of that board, what was actually the trigger or so, is that there is a certain feedback mechanism that the independence was wanted to be compromised or so is that.
Yeah, not only new challenges in the next role, what we can read a lot.
I guess, sorry, Elīna. One point, I guess, can we really call the independent board member if he's working for another kind of state-owned or government-owned, for example, management position? And this is, I guess, some gray zone. I mean, especially when these kind of people are working in maybe even under the same ministry kind of umbrella in different positions, and when these tough discussions with the stakeholders kind of comes up, then this is kind of a bit tricky. I mean, are you really independent, or I mean, how you will behave in some certain situations? I think that's the gray zone which is still kind of open. And in Latvia, of course, I guess that with the pool of independent directors are not so big because, I mean, of these restrictions, because you need to declare all your whatever, what your belongings and assets and so on, which is probably okay. But I mean, the question, I mean, how public is that, and how much of the possible applicants kind of doesn't apply for these independent jobs.
Okay, so you were adding that if in cases you have too much to lose, if you're taking independent decision, or you are saying, okay, this time it's absolutely fine. And if I have too much to lose, then the question is are you truly independent or not? But I want to add one more topic, the same, but regarding potential solutions or potential reforms in Baltic countries.
Okay, from my side, I would trigger first independent regulator might be of help. Okay, first of all, letter of expectation. It really helps a lot. And say in Riga Airport, where we do have letter of expectation in place, it really sets the thin border, and it really helps a lot. So really, from practice, very, very efficient solution. The next one is to have independent regulator for tariffs for those SOEs, because that also brings another independence aspect for the business operations. So, and finally, if you are working with international credit rating agencies like S&P and Moody's, then actually in the credit opinions for issuers, there is a very nice wording. This issuer is having, although fully state-owned corporate, it's having very long track record of not interference from state shareholders' perspective. And this is treated as a value, not as a minus. So just point for future.
Okay, let's continue. Stuff is independence, so we have a strong board. Responsibilities are clear, and we are trying to adhere to them. Sustainability is entering the boardrooms as well regarding these independent boards. But from the shareholder perspective, time to time there are questions: how can we know that boards are performing good? And this is discussion, in several industries. Sometimes boards are changed because we need more active board. What does it mean, more active board, and so on and so forth. So what is your expectation, maybe your main points regarding this metrics or evaluation process, how board itself can define and acknowledge that board is performing all the responsibilities, this is done, decisions are taken, and also somehow shareholders and also other stakeholders can have this feeling, let's say. Sometimes it's just a feeling that board is performing great. Any examples from your practice, how it is done and how you communicate with the shareholders regarding performance of the board on a yearly basis? Who wants to start?
So I can start from Lithuanian example. So generally, I think we had quite a comprehensive process of measuring board performance. So first of all, we'll start with the letter of expectations. So from the shareholder, each state-owned enterprise has the letter of expectations. Then, of course, one more measurement, I think that each SOE has the financial targets that are approved by the government. Then we have the Corporate Governance Center that is monitoring the strategy execution process, and also they're measuring many different perspectives, and they're issuing the governance index. So let's say A+ is the highest index, and D probably is the lowest. So you can measure overall, let's say, your performance as a board. And of course, there is annual self-assessment that is also complementary, and this is the way how it is. Can it be done better? I believe yes. The quality of the reporting, disclosure, it always can be done better. But generally, I think the process itself already provides quite good framework how to monitor, how to measure performance. So this is Lithuanian experience.
What structured one? Erkki?
Yeah, I'm coming back to the earlier point. To criticality of the chairman, repeating my earlier point is that have a great board members but lousy chairman, you will get not a good outcome. Have a great chairman and average board members, and you will get a well-performing board. So this is one component. Yes, pay really attention in the selection. And also, setting the expectations towards to the chairman. Chairman's work is not 15 or 20% more than the other board members. It's 2 or 3 times bigger than the other board members. And it takes 2 to tango. Is that have also professional owner, of course. So I'm. Very, very happy to see in the principles the upgrade there is the very clear language about towards the ownership unit, professional ownership unit, and further consolidation. I mean, it's a skill of itself. And it's a small country like Estonia, if you chop the ownership topics between 5 or 6 ministries or so, everyone having 1 or 2 companies to look after. You are like a doctor who is visiting or who is seeing a patient once a year. I mean, you are not going to be a good doctor there. So I mean, you need a flow. You need also the volume to work with that. So that is another component. Is that if I look to Estonian recent frictions, I mean they are mostly, I think, in between of the owner and the board. So we can kind of. Boards can always do more. We can keep chopping up, the board work as well. But I think that, where the keys are dropped are between the owner and the board. And right. This is again comes back into the criticality of the chairman. Chairman is a really linchpin position here to be in the plate. Yes.
Okay. So the question was maturity of governance,
yes.
Development.
Yeah. Everything starts from the top. Everything starts from the top. Yeah.
So before the questions from the Slido audience, so if you would, as we started, some few keywords regarding strong boards, but some keywords, how do you see the boards in Baltics? What challenges, what developments, important steps to be making to have even stronger boards and greater results?
I would start, I mean, I think the boards has become more kind of professional, and the people working in the boards, I think they are in general good, but the main issue is probably how you frame this relationship between the major shareholder state and the supervisory board. And not only the expectation letter, but I mean, is there any kind of regulation how you kind of frame that relationship? Because I mean, there happens a lot of kind of discussions that for example, a very active shareholder wants kind of more and more information, which even goes kind of into the very operational, whether that is okay or that's not okay. How much the board should be representing the company interests over the shareholders or just the shareholders' interest? I think we still lack the understanding and the framework of this relationship between the boards and the shareholder. And that might be strengthened. And that's probably also the question about this performance measurement of the boards. When you have that strongly kind of set this foundation laid out, then you also can much easier kind of evaluate that board and board's performance.
So no expectations, no possibility to run this performance assessment. Elīna?
I think we here in the Baltics, we have undervalued the benefit of different board committees, like audit committee, like investment committee, because by this one you shift the role. Okay, you should not double or triple. But there's dedicated board member. Okay, for sure, there are different formats in different jurisdictions, and even here in the Baltics, say, for example, in audit committees, there might be only board members, or there might be only one board member who is dedicated to be based on his professional background and competencies. So, but the use of those different board committees would really make the process more efficient and easy up resource at the board level, where the board really comes to be together as one unit team.
Of course, it's quite a big challenge to form a committee if you are 2-3 board members, and you need to form a committees from board members only, right? So this is kind of overall understanding globally. So it's kind of
not an audit committee. In audit committees you can have the independent. Also in the Baltics, I guess. So.
Yeah. So, for example, here in Altum, there is audit committee. So where
external.
Yeah, with external one.
Usually we're saying, why you are not putting those people in boardroom to have proper discussions? Okay, future challenges. What do you see?
Yes, I would like to add one more perspective. So I believe that many SOEs, they also have a challenge to have very clear perspective from shareholder on how to balance financial sustainability with the special services, so special public services. There's always a tension to provide perfect special public obligations, but at the same time there's a pressure to be financially sustainable. And somehow that dialogue really it must happen. And I see that this is one of the challenges, that probably constant challenges, that we will still need to work on that.
Right. Final words.
Yeah, I think we actually are in a pretty good progress. And I'm hugely thankful for the work of the Baltic Institute for Corporate Governance, which is, I think, one of the best kind of cross-border undertakings throughout the Baltics now, more than a decade already. 1,000+ people trained, speaking the same language, forming the networks, etc. So yeah, I don't know where we would be without it. So I think that's not the only, but that's not the only factor here. But carrying the flag has had a big role. So I'm actually, and we need to look back. We need to really look that we don't lose what we already have built. As we're discussing here today about the next steps, etc., is that the government in Estonia is discussing with full seriousness about maybe abolishing the nomination committee because it seems not really working or so. So we have some much more basic challenges, before we're thinking about what will be the next steps. Yes.
So back to basics, right? Okay, Erkki Saka, our country manager at Estonia, is looking for the questions from the Slido. So Erkki, please.
I think this is for all of you. What is the biggest governance challenge you faced and overcome as a board member at an SOE?
Remember about honesty and so on.
Tell us a story.
I think I have shared my challenge already. I will skip.
It will be too long story, so.
I think these challenges are still ahead, at least in my case. So let's see how this plays out.
Ongoing
yeah.
process. something.
Everybody is lucky when you are having very general response. So,
You can tell about your friend, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So coming back to the role of the professional challenger, this is not easy role, especially for regionally SOEs. I'm not talking on the board where I'm currently, but typically SOEs treat board members as the ones who are just tick unit for procurement process. So approve procurement excess level.
Threshold.
Yeah. So therefore, when you are coming in the company and being as a professional challenger, not turnaround, but challenger, so it really people are confused, so a bit afraid, but as soon as you see this professional catch in between, so it really helps. So, but yeah, this shift towards professional challenger and how to handle this shift, this is quite complicated.
That's it. Okay, now it's I will choose an easy question then. Do the panelists think that they have sufficient remuneration currently?
No.
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 What to do, you know?
No, my answer is no, but in the same time there is aspect that sometimes you're ready to be on the board of SOE just because you are investing so much, but the benefit is a society, and then it just come another angle why you are investing yourself so much in this dedicated task. So not everything is counted by euro in your bank account.
I would say that for less challenging boards, I would say that the remuneration is reasonable. But of course, when it comes that it's not, takes too much of your time and the effort doing too much of the job, I would say that there should be some premium on that. Yeah.
Okay. So it's usually an answer. It depends, you know.
It was quite no this time. Okay. Why there is reluctance to look for foreign competence from, for example, from EU countries to the supervisory boards of SOEs?
I can start. I have been chair of 3 companies, the bank and the telco and the airline, and I had a privilege to work with the members and nominees from EBRD side, also from the Swedish telco side, and I would really say that usually these are very good, experienced kind of professionals, even not the always employees of that organizations, but the really kind of independent guys with a lot of knowledge, and I think this is the best combination, because these people usually gives you like this outside view from when you just have this Latvian thinking of some of the problems. I really appreciate that, and I really encourage that would be more actually in Latvian SOEs.
Okay.
So adding from my experience, when I was on the supervisory board of Sportland at the Baltic level, so half of the board was international experts. So not experts, but with really very well-see track record, professional level. So, and it really brings completely different pace of development, and the pace. So, so therefore, it's just only advantage to have foreigners here also in Latvia, and it would a bit also push up internal competition as well. So otherwise, we feel like in a bit on a Latvian pool, local one, just from Latvian perspectives. So therefore, language should not be a barrier.
Lithuania, I think there is no reluctance. There are many boards with the foreign board members, and I think it really adds a lot of value. And at the same time, well, myself, I worked with the international board member at Lithuanian Post. But generally, I think also when it must be very clearly defined what exactly competences are needed for a specific company, specific board. So if the company operates in the local market, you must have very clear understanding what competences, what exactly you need from the international board member. If you operate internationally, yes, it might make sense, but again, I mean, the international board member itself, it's not like some value. Again, we need to define what exact competences we need from international board member. Then, yes, we have really much, let's say, higher value if we don't have these competences on the local market.
I haven't really seen a reluctance or so, so I can't comment. Is that also have been working with several international boards. I had myself on while executive job, I had extremely international board or so. So I don't recognize the situation. I realize they might be, but I haven't seen basically any reluctance for that.
Thank you. And the last one. Professionally weak and politically impaired shareholders cannot prioritize on goals and letter of expectations. What should be done differently to improve?
Strong ownership unit will not make, I think, miracles, but will help. Will help, consolidate this bit of the playing field, etc. Hopefully, will be a good, not a buffer, but will be kind of the good moderator, helper there as well. So that is, I think, that's the way forward. I mean, we are not going to fix our democracies, or we are not going to fix our politicians. So we need to find a slightly more kind of, technical approach here. And I think, again, kind of be bold with consolidating the ownership units. That will not make miracles, but will be a step to the right direction.
One more way is to have a dialogue and really to try to educate and support shareholder with know-how. I think it's also one of the ways how we can improve, because yes, we probably don't have always options to change some systematic challenges, but you can always do your best to educate.
I guess I assume this shareholder expectation letters usually are drafted by the company boards and management, and then is reviewed and approved by the shareholder. But I agree that in Latvian case we had this PKC or state chancellery who is now taking over this. I think there should be some centralized kind of view on this one and some broader discussion, because I mean it still stays at the ministry level sometimes, and there is no enough kind of discussion about that expectations letters.
I think that dialogue brings those 80%, and then this role of centralized coordination unit as state chancellor takes another 20% when needed.
Here comes 80-20 again. Okay, but so let me thank you, Erkki, and audience for the questions that were asked. And do you know what is very important for every board meeting?
Minutes.
Yeah, of course, minutes, indeed. So we'll have minutes, I guess, after this agenda. Yes, something else. It starts in time and also ends in time. And our time for panel discussion actually ends now. And what I wish, and really thank you for sharing your experiences and thoughts and also future challenges. I really wish that you overcome all the challenges in your companies where you're serving currently as a board member. I wish you quite big stamina and resilience in stakeholder management process, especially when the state is shareholder to achieve all the goals, and best of success in all the efforts what you're doing also in your private life and other position in other companies. So thank you very much
for
joining, and the floor goes back to Riga.